Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action.
Hi, y'all. This is Jerry Williams, a.k.a. TV Jerry. Originally announced that the Fredericksburg Film Festival was going to be featured this week, but when this week's guest announced his retirement, I wanted to jump on it.
So I stick the CD in, I hit play, and it like 30 seconds in is a F you, F you. And I could see my chief leaving because we overlooked the Navy exchange. I could see her leaving in her car, and as soon as that F you hit the air, I saw her back up the hill.
Oh, wow.
And I said, oh boy, here it comes.
You might recognize that voice. It's today's guest and well-known Richmond crime reporter, Jon Burkett, talking about how he transitioned from radio to TV in the Navy. Jon started at CBS 6 as a photographer and worked his way up to become known as the Crime Insider, reporting on thousands of cases. He recently announced his retirement, which will be official on September 29th, marking the day he started 26 years ago. We'll talk about some of the most interesting aspects of his career and what's next.
Sifter Review of the Week.
Alice and Steve on Hulu. Nicola Walker and Jermaine Clement play former lovers who've evolved into best friends, with solid performances to prove it. Almost immediately, things get complicated when he falls for her daughter, Yali Topol Margalith. This is undeniable cringe comedy and seldom really funny, just more awkward. The one thing that makes this series more interesting is that every episode ends with another surprise. Actually, it gets better with each one, so by the end, it's gotten quite complex and compelling. I gave Alice and Steve 3.5 out of 5 stars. Jon Burkett, welcome to Sifter for the Ear.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
You know, I was only at CBS 6 for a measly 15 years, so we didn't overlap at all. But of course, Cheryl, good old Cheryl Miller was there then. And you know how it is. Newsrooms change so fast, you probably never even heard of me. I left in 89. And when did you start?
I started in 1999, 2000.
Okay, so about 10 years later. So I was long gone by then.
Was Casadante there when you were there? Or Wayne Koval?
Nope, I think that was after me.
Really? Well, I know Cheryl Miller was there.
Yeah, Cheryl was there. Gene Meserve, that was probably before your...
Well, Gene went on to work on for CNN.
Yeah, we did a podcast, too, about that, because she had a great career up there. I know that you did overlap with Mark Holmberg.
I did.
Who was my friend who was in my Dirt Woman documentary.
He loves some Dirt Woman.
He did love some Dirt Woman. So did you ever run into Dirt Woman on any of your crime investigations?
I did sometimes because Dirt Woman would roll around in the wheelchair a lot, but that was more Mark's thing.
Yeah. So you got your start at Wendy's at the age of 16?
16.
What's that about?
I used to work at Wendy's at Price Club Boulevard in Chesterfield County. I was on a marketing program where I would leave school early and go work from 11:45 to 8 every day as part of my credits.
Wow, what high school was that?
It was Manchester High School.
Okay.
I came in and would run the drive-through mostly probably after 5 o'clock. And on the weekends, I would run it all the way through like 2 o'clock in the morning. Because one night I was messing around on the microphone thing and talking about double stacks and this and that, and just showing a little bit of personality. And Lisa McKay, who was on Q94, came through the drive-through, and she said, you know, I don't know if you're kidding around or not, but she said, have you ever thought about being a broadcaster? And I said, no, I haven't given much thought. And she said, well, you have a real rasp in your voice that I think would be good for broadcast, for radio or for TV. So I kind of kept that in the back of my mind. And then when I started gearing towards what am I going to do? Am I going to go to college or go the military route? A buddy of mine, Mike Silvera, said, hey, man, before you make a decision, I took the ASVAB test and I qualified for journalism because of my score. And it's a guaranteed A school. So if you get this certain score, you can go to journalism A school and possibly become a journalist in the Navy. And I said, well, you know what? I think it's worth the try. So I took the ASVAB. I scored high in English, sucked at math. I picked the job journalism. Mike and I went to boot camp together. Because at the time, you know, it was my first time away from home. My first plane ride was a trip to boot camp in Chicago. So I wanted to be back home because I knew my first duty station would probably be overseas or on a carrier or doing something like that. So I went through journalism school. While I was in journalism school, they taught us every facet of journalism. There was print, burning your own photographs. It wasn't like nowadays with an iPhone where you click it, don't like it, get rid of it. And you're actually doing the work of
Go to
burning.
the dark room. Yep.
Those are dark room stuff. And then obviously video and then radio. So I really took a liking to the broadcast part. So when it came time for me to pick my first duty station, I said, you know what? I'm going to pick a real bad place, but overseas to where they'll guarantee give it to me. And I had done my research, and it was Diego Garcia, which is a tiny island in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
I was gonna say, I never heard of it. Yeah.
But it was a broadcast attachment, and I knew I would go broadcast. But the only hiccup was you have to pass everything to get those orders.
Yeah.
Well, I failed public relations, and I had to get recycled and set back. So I lost my orders to Diego Garcia. So I thought for sure that I was going to a carrier after that. But I passed public relations the second time around, and then I got my orders. And I looked at my orders, and it said, okay, you're going to Naval Media Broadcast Attachment, La Maddalena, Italy.
Oh,
and
cool.
I'm thinking, whoa, that's a change. That's,
And not bad either.
it's not, it's a good, I've got the golden horseshoe up my rear end.
Yeah, really.
So I said, this is going to be good. So I went over there. I did start in radio. The story I tell everybody how I got to TV was I first was a morning shock jock. I did that for, I don't know, Jerry, 6 months, I think. And then my chief was like, hey, we've got to move you. We've got to move you to the afternoons because we've got to make a rotation for others to get into that slot. You're good at it, but you need to do something that you're uncomfortable with. So she assigned me to a rock show, an afternoon rock show. I was probably 2 weeks into it. And her big thing was always read the CD and make sure you got the clean version that's going to air.
Yeah.
So I had looked up this song, and I knew it had kind of a lengthy outro to it, so I could go to the bathroom and then come back to the board.
Been there.
And I used to always do that with Highway to Heaven and some of those songs.
Yeah. And I
But
got a
this
Vita
was-
in my day when I was a DJ was the one we played.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
one was Misfits. Jesus Built My Hot Rod. And it said on the CD, clean version. I said, okay, I'm good. So I stick the CD in, I hit play, and it like 30 seconds in is a F you, F you. And I could see my chief leaving because we overlooked the Navy Exchange. I could see her leaving in her car. And as soon as that F you hit the air, I saw her back up the hill.
Oh, wow.
And I said, oh boy, here it comes. So she came in, took me off the radio. She goes, that's it. You don't know the music. You can't do this. We're switching you to TV. And then that's where I found my true passion. I love TV.
You know, that's interesting you say that because I started at VCU. I was Sandy Night. I did the morning shift for 4 years. And then I got a job, created Richmond's first underground radio show called Veronica Lake. We're talking 1970, I think. One night I put on Woodstock, the new album came out. And I don't know if you even remember Country Joe and the Fish, but I said,
do.
oh, this will be a cool song, the Country Joe and the Fish song. I put it on without listening to it. And they don't spell fish, they spell F-U. And I'm like, So I had the same thing happen. Luckily, nobody was listening because it was 2:00 in the morning. So I didn't get busted for that one.
My heart dropped to my feet. I saw her hit the reverse in her car. I said, oh, here it comes.
Yeah. How did you get to Channel 6? And then how did Crime Insider evolve?
I was on my way out of the Navy, and I was married at the time to my first wife. And I was like, listen, I've been so blessed in my journey in the Navy so far. I know something is coming up to where I'm going to have to go and be at sea for 6 months or 7 months or whatever it is.
Right.
And at the time, my daughter, Sophia, was probably, I don't know, man, 12 or 13 months old. And I was like, I just don't want to spend that time away from her. So it ended up, I put out some resumes here at home. I put a resume out to 12 and out to 6. And 6 called back first. There's a guy named Stan Heist. And Stan called me in and said, hey, we want you as a photographer, editor, and you're hired. And that's kind of how the story started, because I got my foot in the door, and I knew once I got my foot in the door that I was going to push to be on air.
How did Crime Insider itself actually evolve into something?
Early in my career, it was about 4 months into being at CBS 6, the weekend guy got fired. I did take initiative after consulting with another couple reporters, Trey Hardison, Rick Young. They're like, hey, man, just tell them you're going to get a tape and give them the tape and they can make a decision, but you can do it all by yourself. So sell them on that point that you're a one-man show. You can shoot, write, edit. So I went in and told the news director, who's a guy named Mark Neerman, And I said, hey, man.
I know Mark.
Yeah.
Saw him out in California, actually. He came to the Dirt Woman documentary when I was out there.
Yeah. I said, hey, man, before you go and hire somebody, I'd like to drop a tape off on your desk. And he said, have it on my desk by Monday. So I had it on his desk Monday. And then he said, okay. And then he says, I'll see you tomorrow. So I thought that, okay, it was nothing. Yeah. And then I come in the next day, and it's him and Mark Pimlitel, who was the general manager. He said, come into my office. And I went in, and he goes, all right, we're going to put you on 2 days a week, and you're going to be a photographer 3 days a week. And we're going to get you kind of acclimated that way. And then that went on for about 8 or 9 months, and then 9/11 hit first, and then the DC snipers hit.
Footnote.
The DC sniper attacks were a series of coordinated shootings over 3 weeks in October of 2002 in DC, Maryland, and Virginia.
It was obvious that I had built some sources within law enforcement and fireplaces. So they're like, here's Jon. Let's let him focus on crime for most of his general assignment. There were still times I would cover hurricanes and tornadoes and stuff like that. But a majority of my assignments were police related.
Surprise guest drop in.
Well, that is a perfect segue, and you didn't even know it because I often have a surprise drop-in guest, and I got somebody who wanted to drop in and say hello to you. Hold on a minute.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Footnote.
This guy is Sheriff Mike Wade, who was Henrico County Sheriff for 20 years and retired in 2019. Welcome, Sheriff. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, this guy is one of the reasons why that I had so much help in the day, and I would often do stories, and he would be very accommodating and let me in the jail and let me have at some of the inmates to talk to him. I don't know if you know this, Jerry, but Mike married me and my second wife.
Tell us that story, Mike.
I met Jon somewhere one time. He told me, I'm getting married soon. And I said, who's marrying you? And he said, well, I called President Bush, and he wasn't able to do it. I called Governor McDonnell, and he doesn't do marriages. And I said, well, I do them. And he said, okay, dude, you're going to do it. And I did.
Now, are all sheriffs qualified as like a captain on a ship, or did you just have some special?
You have to be appointed by the circuit court judge.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I've done a lot of family members, friends. And I don't advertise that I do it. I guess everybody now knows it.
Now they know. Sheriff, tell us some of the times you worked with Jon, maybe a good story or something interesting that happened one time.
Jon was always looking to talk with inmates in the jail. And a lot of people have second thoughts about doing that. I've actually got compliments from law enforcement by allowing him to do it because he got a confession that they couldn't get. And, seeing it on the news, what it was. The thing about Jon is you could always trust Jon. He never was trying to sneak up on you or anything like some of the other reporters. And we had a very open relationship. If I couldn't tell him something, I'd tell him I couldn't tell him.
I can tell you this, Jerry. If Mike had hung on and stayed till now to be sheriff, I probably would have been leaving to work for him. I actually worked with his brother, George, a lot on cold cases in Richmond. I actually saw George on Tuesday, and I said, dude, when are you going to hang it up? He's like, oh, no, I'm having fun.
There's a problem there. George knew you were leaving before I did.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he told me.
Oh, man.
Uh-oh.
That means you like him better, right?
Well, Katie Beck is the one that dragged it out of me.
Guess you'll have to blame Katie. Well, Mike, anything else you want to tell us about working with Jon or knowing Jon before we let you get back to your retirement?
I called him a lot of times to find out what was going on in places. And I can tell you when the incident occurred in Charlottesville, I had one of my employees in the command post working up there. And Jon told me things that were going on before he knew about it.
Wow.
So he's got great sources.
Footnote.
The event in Charlottesville was a car attack by a white supremacist in 2017. He deliberately drove his car into a crowd of people who were protesting the Unite the Right rally, killing one person and injuring 35 others.
The state police are probably hiring him to break some of their leaks.
I've got a story about Mike that will be good for the podcast.
There you go.
So Mike had an inmate named 804 Jackrabbit. What was the kid's name, the rapper?
Bear something? Or
I don't remember. It was a rapper that had been pulled over in Miami. They extradited him back to Mike's facility in Western Henrico. And this guy had another rapper that was coming in to see him. And my son, Austin, is trap rap. My son loved this kid, this guy, this artist. Mike said, hey, man, so-and-so is coming over. You want to interview him? I'm like, Yeah, dude, I'll interview him, and then I'll FaceTime my son with him on the phone.
All right.
And my son will have massive street cred with all his friends because his dad is interviewing this guy. Sure enough, I called my son. He didn't answer the first time. And then I was like texting him, pick it up now. And when he picked it up, he saw this rapper and he's like, oh my God, my dad's with someone. So I'm like, oh, that's great. So Mike facilitated that. I was like dad of the year for 2 years in a row after that.
I was going to say, it's a challenge when they're teenagers, to be a cool dad.
Yeah, man. And he was 16, so very, an age where you're not cool. So
exactly,
he thought it was cool.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for dropping in and for helping to make Jon a cool dad.
Jon, make sure you keep in touch.
I will, man. I'll call you after this.
Okay.
All right, bud.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, dude, that was awesome.
So let's get back to Crime Insider itself. When exactly did that start?
So the Crime Insider name actually started probably 2014, 2015. We got a marketing director by the name of David Stotts, who came in with a very creative mind. He came from the San Antonio Spurs, and we pulled him from San Antonio, and the guy was like, hey, dude, you're like the man of the streets here. How come no one promotes you? And I said, well, your guess is as good as me. I don't know. I said, I've done this for a lot of years. And he goes, well, that's going to end now. We're going to start promoting you. And he came up with a name, the Crime Insider. So it's kind of where the alter ego was born. And it almost feels like, I can tell you, man, there are times in this job where you feel like Batman. You feel like someone's putting the thing up to you flash your symbol and you got to come.
Right.
So it's felt like that at times.
I know you've covered, I bet you don't even know how many cases.
Oh, I mean, dude, it's thousands of homicides.
What about some of the most memorable or unusual stories, even close calls, something that stood out in your mind that you want to tell us about?
Well, I mean, the catalyst of my career going up and adding to my credibility was I covered 5 or 6 of the DC snipers killings.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know this, Jerry. As the media, we're invited into the death chamber to witness the deaths of some of these people that commit these crimes.
I was a movie reviewer, so they never invited me in.
Well, I was invited in to watch the death of Jon Muhammad, the mastermind of the DC snipers. And then years later, I watched Ricky Gray, who is notoriously known for being one of the killers in the Harvey family incident.
Footnote.
Local business owner Kathy Harvey, her musician husband Brian, and their 2 children were murdered in their house in 2002. So how was being there for that?
It was interesting. I often tell people that, back when it was 2009, Virginia had 2 methods. They had lethal injection and they had the electric chair. My colleague, Tim Trudell, who I still speak with to this day, he witnessed an electric chair. And you could tell that it really shook him. It weighed on him. And I never got to witness an electric chair. When mine both were lethal injection. So my opinion on it is probably a little bit different than somebody else's. But I thought that Jon Muhammad got to go out quietly and easy compared to what he wreaked on the community, man, shooting people from 400 yards away out the trunk of a car. I mean, it was a horrific time. You remember that time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember when they were at Parham and Broad Street.
Yeah.
At the Exxon station there.
Yeah, and that was right down the street from Mike's office over at the sheriff's office.
Yeah. So what was your most unusual fan encounter? Not on a crime, or maybe it was on a crime, but somebody who was not part of the criminal investigation, but was a fan. Maybe it was out to dinner one night or something like that.
Most of the fans are really fans, not of Jon Burkett, but they're fans of true crime. So they've got questions they want to ask. The one that stuck out is a lady that came up to me and said, wow, you look way better in person than you do on TV. Like, thanks, I guess. I mean, I don't know.
Really. My most memorable was I was standing at a urinal and somebody stood next to me and said, hey, aren't you on Channel 6? Sure. So what about sources and leaks? I know obviously in a job like that, you've got to have sources. We talked to Sheriff Mike, and obviously sometimes it's a source that's easy to find. But what have been some of the more challenges in finding somebody or having that person to help you get that story?
Well, people don't understand that you don't develop these sources overnight, and you don't develop them within a year either.
Right.
I mean, it takes you years and years. And most of my sources, man, I know their families. I know their kids' birthdays. We all become friends. And when they realize that, hey, this is not John the reporter, but it's John the guy outside of work,
Right.
then they open up and they're like, hey, man, well, I've got something to help you out.
Oh, that's smart.
And they also, all of them know that, I'm not telling anything if somebody asks, where'd you get that from?
Right.
There's no way.
Right. You expect that source. Anyway, you've been doing crime reporting a long time now.
Yeah.
How have you seen crime and reporting change in that period? I'm sure you're going to say social media because that's one of the big changes.
Yeah. And that's why everybody comes at me with, hey, do you think it's more crime now than it was back in the 90s? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. I said, I think you hear about it more because there's so many channels to hear it.
Right.
You got 6, you got 8, you got 12, you got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you got everything.
And the newspapers are doing it now too.
Yeah. Well, these digital media companies are now changing the face of what we do because they're into it. They're listening to scanners and they're out there too. When you talk about like Virginia Statewide Incidents LLC, those guys, man, they burn it up and they've got some really good connections and it's just changed the game. I can tell you as far as reporting like victims and stuff like that, it's far easier now to get an interview. Like, for instance, today there's just a shooting on Lawson Street. I put it out on Facebook, shooting Lawson Street, man has life-threatening injuries. Within 5 minutes, his family's in my inbox saying, unfortunately, he died.
Oh, wow.
And will you come talk to us? That's the kind of stuff that, has made it easier to kind of bridge that gap. Because one of the worst things I hated doing early in my career was, hey, I'm sorry to hear your loved one was gunned down. You want to talk?
Yeah.
You know how it is, Jerry, right?
Yeah.
It's just you felt dirty because I've always tried to put myself in the shoes of people that are going through the worst day of their lives. Would I want that if something happened to my family? I don't think so.
Good point. So why now? Why are you leaving after 26 years?
Honestly, I had a reality check a couple months ago. I got a real bad battle with gout. And I went into a primary care doc, and he told me, dude, your blood pressure is 255/130, and I should be sending you to the hospital via ambulance. And I said, no, I didn't know that. But I said, a lot of this probably has to do with the pain I'm feeling with gout. He's like, nah, I'll give you some points. That's not all that. I am at risk for stroking out. And I'm like, nah, I've got a lot going on, man. And there's a lot of things I want to do. And missing another daughter's wedding, my youngest daughter is 10. I don't want to miss her wedding. My grandkids are 5 and 2. I don't want to miss them growing up. So I said, I've got to change this lifestyle. And to do it, you can't report overnight. You can't wake up in the middle of the night getting phone calls. You can't stop by and get a giant Mountain Dew on the way to the next homicide scene because you're not going to lose the weight. So I said it's time for a change.
And I don't think you're letting anybody know what your next insider job is going to be.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'm going to work for the former chief of police in Chesterfield, now the superintendent with state police, Colonel Jeffrey Katz.
You're going to be doing some kind of PR type work or something?
Internal messaging, which is good. So I won't be out in the forefront, won't be in the stressful situations. I can help him get some, work on the Commonwealth to get some new troopers in line because they've got a severe shortage over there. And my service can go from community to Commonwealth, and I can still feel good about what I do.
That's great. And you get those good benefits.
That's right. And I thought about the pension, and I said, it's probably a good idea.
Worth staying around.
He wants me to do some cold case work, and he's going to allow me to keep my relationship with Reopen the Case Foundation, where we do cold cases. So I still be the front man for Reopen the Case, which airs on CBS 6. So they'll still see me on. It'll just be, maybe 4 times a year, other than 4 times every other night.
Right.
I appreciate you having me on and thinking it's important enough for me to talk about it. I have sincerely loved my time reporting in my hometown. When I was in Baltimore working at WBFF, I would practice in the mirror, my sig outs. So I was juiced when I got a chance to perform in front of my hometown crowd. It's gotten a lot easier through the years. The live shots have gotten a lot less rough. Because when you start out, it's pretty rough. You know how that is.
Yeah.
So I've gotten a lot better at talking about breaking news and kind of honing in on my craft. And throughout the years, I've gotten an unbelievable amount of support from this community. Richmond has always got my heart. I'll always be here. I'm not leaving. Folks were worried that I was going to pick up and move to Alabama where my oldest daughter lives. That's not happening yet. Right now, I'm content with walking away. I tell folks it's like Tom Brady. He walked away with the championship, walked out on top.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm walking out on top and leaving behind a legacy that's going to be hard to match.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I had that one last question, but now I got to ask you another one you brought up. Being a Richmonder, have you ever had to cover a case with a friend of yours?
Yeah. So actually, 4 or 5 cases I had that there are folks from high school. The guy that shot Officer Ryan Capoletti in Chesterfield is a guy named Franco Bradley that sat next to me in homeroom at Manchester High School.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. I tell people like, hey, man, that guy used to sit next to me in homeroom. Like, for real? I'm like, yeah, dude, for real.
So one question I always like to ask when you're not working on your own work and you get a little chance to relax, what have you been watching lately? And I wonder if you're into true crime.
You know, Jerry, I don't watch a lot of true crime.
Me either.
I watch a lot of whatever my wife and my daughter put on the TV.
Uh-oh.
I try to watch a lot of sports, but they complain about it. So through the last 16 or 17 years since my father died, man, I've been coaching basketball. And I've built some relationships with a lot of young men. And some of those young men have gone on to do big, great things. And one of my ball players, Vinny Pasquantino, plays for the Royals for first base. And I get a kick out of watching him play on ESPN and the MLB network. But my wife will occasionally put on a movie from Netflix or something. And I'm like, oh, that was pretty good.
Oh, okay. But nothing stood out for you lately.
No, see, I'm a big time, like, I like to watch comedy because of I live
your
in
job. Hello.
Yeah, I live in darkness, so I like to laugh a little bit. So these stand-up comedians like Chappelle and Segura and Maniscalco and Joe Coy, I love watching their Netflix specials and getting a good laugh out of it.
Well, Jon, this has been great. I'm so glad you did this, and I'm thrilled for your future and certainly appreciate the 26 years at CBS 6.
It's been a good run, quarter of a century. I'm ready to roll.
Good deal. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
That was CBS 6 crime insider Jon Burkett. He recently announced his retirement, which will be official on September 29th, marking the day he started 26 years ago. By the way, there's a big event to honor him on September 18th at the Robinson Theater, and I'll post a link to that event on the webpage for this show.
Coming soon. In theaters.
Toy Story 5. The gang is back, but there's a new threat. Electronics. If Stop That Train wasn't enough last week, just in time for Pride, we have 2 new films. Girls Like Girls. Hayley Kiyoko's 2015 song is now a movie which she wrote and directed about a 17-year-old who finds herself with new attractions. Leviticus follows 2 gay teenagers who become tormented by a violent supernatural entity.
TV and streaming.
I Will Find You on Netflix. This is yet another Harlan Coben adaptation starring Sam Worthington as an imprisoned father who's wrongfully convicted of murdering his son. When his ex-sister-in-law discovers proof that the child might still be alive, it sets off a prison break. Color Book on Netflix. A devoted single father adjusts to life after his wife's passing while raising his son with Down syndrome. They embark on a journey through Metro Atlanta to attend their first baseball game. Voicemails for Isabel on Netflix. Jill leaves voice messages to her deceased sister telling her about her life, but a real estate agent begins to receive their confessions with Zoe Deutsch and Nick Offerman. Les Culturistas Culture Awards on Bravo and Peacock. Podcast hosts Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers celebrate culture's iconic and consequential moments of the year. As promised, the Fredericksburg Film Festival will be here next week. This is Jerry Williams. Thanks for listening.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
Visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.